roadblock to soil health is a lot of folks will say that economically it just isn't going to work. So has that been the case for you? What is sort of your bottom line looking like now that you're in a soil health management system?
So when they say economically it won't work, is that because they feel they're going to have to pay taxes, or because it works? I mean, the winter feed cost is one of the biggest expenses in a cow-calf operation, and where we live in Minnesota here, I mean, there's guys start feeding in October, and they feed clean out till end of May, 1st of June. Then that's when they're.
Guys are, as soon as that grass is growing, we're turning them out.
Yeah.
With the livestock, we've been able to take every little piece of marginal ground or soil erosion type of ground and put it into forage. Will cuts more 4.5 to 10 acre hay fields than anybody, but then it makes the rest of our ground just that much better. We've taken out the troubled ground, still utilizing it. And my dad and them always said you got to farm every acre. You can't just you just can't farm all of our. We have just that. There's some marginal sandier type of ground. You have to manage it a little bit better. Yeah, well, it is what we got. That's what we got to do. But.
And as far as yields, I mean, because that's the thing that I think a lot of folks just can't get out of is yield. And we really, I think when we talk about soil health, really have to talk about the system. And so trying to move that needle to get folks to kind of get away from just thinking about yield. But let's talk a little bit about yield. Have you noticed a big change in your yields? Are your yields comparable to your neighbors?
Well, unfortunately, I think when we jumped over to no-till, we went through some really good crop years where we never seen a hit in the yield at all. So then we made our conversion, and now we still don't see a hit in the yield. We're doing just as good as we did before, I feel.
I think it was our third year of no-till. On one of the fields, our local Pioneer salesman was out making his rounds during harvest, and he was riding, and he was looking at the beans, and he wasn't saying a lot, but I see him kept looking at the yield monitor. And then he'd asked how many years it had been a no-till, and I said, well, this was 3 years no-till. And he said, well, you think you've seen any yield hits or anything like that, or what's your thoughts on that? And I pointed at the yield monitor. I said, what do you think? Well, wouldn't call that a yield hit by any means. And I said, well, I don't know. We feel like we haven't lost anything in those years, but like Michael said, we did hit some really good crop years when we first started transitioning to no-till. And of course, all your neighbors, they always have better yields than you anyway. That's what they say.
We bought a new combine one time, and the neighbor's like, well, how do you like that yield monitor? Or what did your crop yield? I said, well, if I'm reading the monitor right, it read the wheat ran 120 bushel, right? Because you read the highest number the monitor spits out, and that's what they tell you?
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I don't think we've taken any yield right at all either. I think we've enhanced evened our ground up. We fixed the dry spots and fixed the wet spots and this and that. I think I'd have to say our yield is
You take out and utilize your bad spots or your wet spots different.
Yeah.
So you farm your better ground. So yeah, you are going to get a yield bump because you're not going to have the loss.
Yeah, we're just.
You transition good ground to stay good ground, but you're not getting the loss because of a bad spot in the field, where it could be a 5 or 10 acre field. Who knows?
And
Like you were saying, you've increased your consistency across.
yeah.
I think on the soybean side of things, we've increased our yields. I know we have on soybeans.
Your soybeans.
Yeah, our beans are much healthier now than they ever have been.
You don't have to buy all brand new equipment either. I mean, we got the same kind of planter you got. Our planter is 20 years old. Our no-till drill back here is 20 some years old. You don't have to go spend $100,000 like you said, or way more. You can $20,000 will get you some pretty nice equipment.
So let's talk about that specifically. So how did you make it work with what you had?
Well, we went out to Ryan and Mike's and looked at their row cleaners, and because Will did the same thing. He put the heavier down pressure springs on our planter. We put brand new row cleaners on, and that made our planter in with GPS. We were on 22-inch rows. We moved over 11 inches and plant undisturbed corn stalks. We put soybeans right in the middle of 11 inches over, and with GPS and different add-on equipment they got nowadays, you can do a pretty darn good job for not much money. Then we don't disturb the root ball or nothing. We're not trying to plant into the root ball, we're staying right on track, right in the middle. Yeah, a couple years ago, he went out and rolled all of our corn stalks after Christmas because we hadn't got much snow yet. So we hooked onto the roller and went out, and it was pretty cold, colder the better, but it just exploded the root ball. And man, that really made for a nice planting too then, and it breaks down faster. Yeah. So just, just trying different things and trying to be conservative about it. Not jumping on the bandwagon for all the latest and greatest technology either. We're trying to be conservative and just use what we have, talk to other people about just exactly how things are working for them.
For a lot of folks, getting over that peer pressure aspect of it it's almost crippling. So because you're part of the innovators, is it something that bothered you at the time? Does it bother you now? Or is it one of those things that you just have to sort of get over?
You just have to have faith in what you're doing and what the people are kind of telling you, because back in the 80s when Will and I were farming with our dad's stuff, we were getting pretty darn good yields, and them yields were going away. They were, we were paying a lot more for our fertilizer and seed, still farming the conventional way. We're losing, we were getting poor stands and this and that, and we weren't getting the return on that expensive inputs. We had to wake up and make an adjustment back to our ground. We had to get our ground kind of healthy again. So it wasn't going to justify paying for these expensive inputs at this point. We're back in the day when we worked with our dad and stuff, way back when, things were really cheap. And my dad and them, they talked about when they signed up for free fertilizer at the FSA just to get people to try it, way back when,
Is that an option for Equip for 2021?
And I've heard Mark say it more than once. You don't just, some guys will grab their checkbook and go to the local co-op and throw it at them and tell me what to do. Kind of a mentality. Well, that'll never work. We can't make that work. We gotta be we just gotta cut some corners here and there and try to be a little more, efficient in everywhere we can.
Well, I think that peer pressure is a big deal for some people, much more than others. Even with the two of us, I think that the peer pressure has played a bigger role for Michael than it has for me. But he's out and about a lot more than I am, and people, what in the world are you guys doing down there? What your brother got you trying now, and this and that, and I don't much care anymore, because at the end of the day, I feel like what we're doing is right for the soil, it's right for our farm, and it's right for our families, and it's working, and it's not. I get so tired of hearing people talk about how many bushels per acre. Oh, I got so many bushels per acre, bushels per acre. Well, how much money did you actually make per acre? What's your profit per acre? People brag about how heavy their weaning weights are on their calves. Okay, well, how many dollars did you spend on creep feed and that? And you take that off there, and if you actually break it down, and what's the profit by enterprise unit? I mean, what are you truly profiting? And that. What's that tillage pass costing you? There's an expense to tillage. You got bigger horsepower tractors, you got the tillage equipment, you got how many passes? You got 1 or 2 in the fall, 1 or 2 in the spring for some guys. They've got 4 trips across their field before they even show up with the planter sometimes. There's an expense to that. You've got a guy in that tractor, you got to pay him. You got diesel fuel expense, you've got shovels, and I never like crawling around underneath a field cultivator replacing shovels or chisel plow shovels. That's not a very fun job. I'm sure Willie didn't exactly enjoy that either.
But then that's another issue. Our stuff's getting all wore out, and we're getting to the point where we're not looking for a whole bunch more capital expenditures. We're looking at retirement more than we are, growth. Some of this equipment is $2,000 a foot. Well, there ain't a whole bunch more of that we want to buy. We can make some easier adjustments and not deal with all this new tillage equipment, and actually seeing better results on our ground.
Well, this year didn't even hook up the roller rather than back it.
No, this is the first year we no-tilled every acre of our corn. We bought that no-till drill and we applied all our own fertilizer. We've never no-tilled corn before, and we've never not had fertilizer spread by the co-op. And this year we went across all our bean stubble and wheat stubble, and we applied all our own fertilizer with the drill. And that was nice, because it was to do it when and how you wanted to. And if the field is right, you weren't on the waiting list, or you might not get it for 2 or 3 days, depending on how things actually you know, there's a learning curve to that too, but I mean, things just kind of went a little more smoothly that way. I deal with the calves, and I put the fertilizer on where I could kind of set my own schedule that way and make it work. You know, and we got a pretty nice corn crop. Our corn is as green as can be. That fertilizer all got put in a zone. It wasn't dug from 0 to 4 inches deep. You know, either our fertilizer is right where we put it. We use all slow release nitrogen fertilizer. We used it on all the corn and wheat, and mainly based on our soil, you know, our sandier type of ground. Just kind of nervous on these big heavy rains. And
how has your fertility program changed from, you know, just different types of fertilizer and rates and things like that?
For us, I didn't cut back any this year. Normally you'd say if you're going to do that, you could cut back a third on the P&K. But soybeans, a good crop of soybeans takes so much P&K. So we just left everything the same this year. Yep. And we no-tilled it in the same as we would spread it this year. And then I think after we get into it a year or two, I think we'll start making some more adjustments. We know it's going to go down. You know that. We got more organic matter. You know, with more organic matter, you have more soil. You know, soil health is going to raise. We're going to be able to hold more, nutrients more. You know, for 1 point of nitrogen or 1 point of organic matter, I mean, how many pounds of nitrogen are we getting for free then? You know, and how much more water? Or, how much, just how much better of a growing season we have just by raising the organic matter. Even I know we've already raised our organic matter a full point on a lot of our ground. They say that first point comes kind of easy. It gets a little tougher after that, don't they? But whatever. But we've made some of our ground a lot healthier in a real hurry. You know, by not having it. When we first started doing the rye up north after grain stubble, it was mainly based on kind of the opposite of what most people do. We did it for soil temperature. We were on them gravelly ridges. We got about 100 acres of that up north, and year in and year out, them ridges would burn off in the soybeans. And the soil is getting too hot. They say 70-degree soil temperature is 100% microbial activity, and 100-degree soil temperature is like 20% microbial activity. Our beans were dying at the roots. You know, it was just bang. You drive by one day and they just turn blue. You know, and then year after year, whether it would be corn, beans, wheat in that ground. You know. And
seed costs aren't getting any cheaper.
No. So
once you're looking at corn or beans or whatever you're planting.
I mean, you lose 15 acres out of a 75-acre field. You're just not cheerleading anymore. It's a bad day. You know, and we took in that ground now and made pretty dang good farm ground out of it.